Hello, team, and welcome back to Bookwitchreviews, my channel, where I will now tell you about my top 10 reads of 2024. I know, surprise, double videos in a short period of time. Crossing our fingers that will happen because I said so. However, as just mentioned, this is my top 10 reads of 2024. I'm just going to jump straight into them. I'll try to summarize them as best as I can, but we all know that that is not my strong suit. My being away from YouTube has not changed that. I am still horrendous, even when I've read the books and I really love them, but I'll try my best just for you. Also, the ring light I currently have, I can't get away with not using it, but at the same time, this light is really annoying me. So if I seem like I'm staring angrily at you, I'm staring angrily at myself, not at you. So in 2024, I read 58 books and it was overall an okay year. I have gotten some new favorites, which is lovely, but I will say that my top 10 was not hard to pick at all. And I find that sad. Like, I want to have a hard time picking my top 10 because that means that I've read loads of really great books. I will say there are some really great books in this stack. So let's go into it and talk about them and love them together, shall we? Their 10th place is two very different books. The first one I'm going to talk about is The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy following a librarian whose library burns down, and sort of to save the magic books that she has been curating and protecting for her entire career, she returns to the island where she grew up, and she sort of sets up accidentally sort of a jam shop that also does magical things. It's super wholesome. There's a really, really sweet sort of soft romance. I love all of the characters. Also, Sarah Beth Durst is highly underrated, and I absolutely adore both her writing style and everything that she does. And I've just found out that there's a sort of a sequel, prequel. I don't think it's with the same characters, but something similar coming out this year, and it looks like this, and it's adorable, and I'm very excited about it. And then also Some Desperate Glory by Emily Tesh. I held off reading this book for a while, and now I'm like kicking myself a little bit because this was glorious. This is a sci-fi space opera following Kurt, who is a warrior who has been sort of trained her entire life to be part of humanity's sort of last resistance. However, as she sort of moves towards graduation, her world changes drastically, and she finds out that the way that she has been raised is very much not it. I don't really know how to say that better, but it's I don't want to ruin any twists for you, so I can't really say anything else, but this was amazing. And I'm so excited about picking up all of Emily Tesh's backlist. And I'm so excited about her 2025 book, The Incandescents, which comes out this year, which sounds like everything that I want, including a middle-aged protagonist and dark academia fantasy vibes, because I love dark academia, and if I can get a sprinkling or a lot of fantasy in with it, that brings me joy. In at number 9 is this teeny weeny number. This is Odd Spirits by S.T. Gibson. This is a prequel to Evocation, which is one of my favorite books of the last couple of years. Because I haven't been on Booktube, you won't notice, but I talk about Evocation all the time. And this is glorious. Evocation is even standing right behind me. That's David. I love him. This is a prequel to Evocation, which is an urban fantasy quartet. The first book is out there, and the second book comes out this year, Ascension. Cannot wait. But this is a prequel. It follows Rice and Moira very early on in their marriage. This particular story is also alluded to in Evocation, so I'm really excited about the fact that we get to sort of enjoy it in more depth. This little stunner is also, it has art. It has art included. I love this. And also I got to meet the lovely Saint, who is the author. And it's just like, her Substack is also great. I love it immensely. I'm going to link it downstairs, downstairs, so that you can enjoy it too. Coming in at number 8 is Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wong. This book took Booktube by storm, as it should. It deserves all the accolade, and I'm so pumped by it. It's one of those books that, like, niggles in your brain for ages after you finished it. And it's sort of comped as sort of very dark academia vibes, and I can see why people are thinking that. I think it's mainly sort of almost like industrial magic meets revolution, which is very cool. We're following two very different characters who, when they meet, end up changing sort of their world intensely. It's just perfect. I would comp it very much to Babel and all of the topics that Babel sort of discusses, but in a obviously fantasy set world. And just like of that Skiona, who is the main female characters in this book, is just incredibly angry and driven. And there's another word that I can't remember right now, but like she wants to succeed so bad, and she does not care who is in the way of that success. And it's just like, I love that. I love how unapologetic she is, that she's just kind of like, I do not want to be at home and have babies and be soft and maternal. I want to lead in magic. I am smart enough. I am more than capable. And if you just let me do it, then I'll show you. And I love that. It's so good. This was brilliant. Plot, pacing, writing, perfect. At number 7, we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett, which is sort of an antithesis to Blood over Brighthaven. This is cozy. This is soft. This is historical fantasy / cozy academia. We're following Emily Wilde, who is determined to get her book on fairies published. And to do so, she sets out to this sort of like very cold island to speak to more fairies and sort of like gather more knowledge on her I don't think it's her PhD, but like in that sort of sense. And it's just so soft and funny, and fairies in this world is very like sort of more folklore fairies than more like current fantasy fairies. And I love this. She has a dog named Shadow who's more than he seems, and she has this rival called Wendell, who sort of shows up out of nowhere. But I also believe that he's sort of her superior in the university, and it's just like, it's wholesome, and I really enjoyed it. It generally surprised me how much I enjoyed it, and it gives really strong Lady Trent vibes. So if you know, you know. At number 6 is this beautiful baby. This is Painted Devils by Margaret Owen, which is the sequel to Little Thieves. Little Thieves was my favorite book of 21, maybe, but it is everything that I love about YA fantasy. Little Thieves is a retelling of the Goose Girl set from the villainous maid's perspective. The sequel still follows Vanya, who is the goddaughter of Death and Fortune, and honestly, this book just pulls on my heartstrings. It also has a Backstreet Boys joke in here, and honestly, Margaret Owen can do no wrong. This was perfect. It hurt me so good. And it's just, I like Holy Terrace is coming out this year, and I cannot wait. At number 5, we have The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is a genius, and I will fight you on that. But this book, though not quite as like sci-fi and confusing as The Fifth Season. Don't get me wrong, The Fifth Season is one of my favorite books I've ever read. But this was just delicious in a completely different way. In it, we are following a young woman who, after her mother's death, gets called to sort of the center of her universe, or her like country, to be told that she is going to be an heir for the Diane King, but she's not the only heir. And also, as she is sort of brought to this capital, fancy floating castle, she finds out that the gods are very close, in the sense that the royal family has been binding the gods to them for eons, and the gods are not happy about it. And it's perfect, and I'm scared to read the sequel. In hot at number 4 is this teeny weeny, beautiful, amazing novella. This is When Among Crows by Veronica Roth, which is a urban fantasy sort of Polish Czech mythology amazingness. I don't even really know how to explain it. We're following several characters in like 120 pages. So we're following Dimitri, who is a part of a family of hunters who sort of give up their souls to slay monsters. And then we are also following this fear-eating Samora, which is like a monster of a kind. However, she is slowly dying, and these two join sort of forces to help each other do a specific thing. We get sort of other monsters and other mythology sort of sneaking in there, including the fact that they are on the hunt to find sort of Baba Yaga to help both of them. And it's just, it packs such a punch for being so short, and I would like to request 14 more of them. We are entering the top 3, and this was so close, okay? But at number 3, we have The Missing of Claire de Lune by Christelle Davos. This is the second book in the Mirror Visitors series. The first book, A Winter's Promise, took my heart by like storm when I read it a good couple of years ago. And then this is almost better than the first one. It's so weird. I obviously cannot tell you what actually happens in the sequel, but in the first book we meet Ophelia, who is sort of this oddball. She lives on a floating island because the world hundreds of years before broke apart, and now humanity is living on these floating islands that are each ruled by a god, and these gods give them different magical powers. And Ophelia is a mirror visitor, which basically means that she can move through mirrors. And she gets engaged to this hunter man from another floating island, sort of seemingly randomly out of nowhere. And she is then sent away to marry him on this other island. And you just sort of see the very different political landscapes of these floating islands, and also just how differently these gods are behaving. And it seems like something is wrong with the god of this floating island that she appears on. And book number 2 is just like, what? And also this slow burn of these books are just like feelings, many feelings. Series, I believe, is a quartet, and I'm a little bit scared about reading book 3 and 4 because so many people are like, this series is amazing, and then they get really mad when they get to book 4. But sometimes I read those books or those series, and when other people are like, I don't like it, then I'm like, I had a great time. At number 2 is The Will of the Many by James Islington. Though, to be all honest, book number 1 and book number 2 could be interchangeable. I had a really hard time picking which one was which. But this book, I'm flabbergasted. I would like this sequel immediately injected into my veins. I'm hoping it comes out in 2025, though we're not entirely sure whether it won't be pushed. But this book is just like, so many of my friends were like, it's fucking amazing. And I was like, I will be the judge of that. And it was amazing. This is epic fantasy at its like most perfect. We are set in a fantasy world that is sort of loosely inspired by the Roman Empire, but it has this very intense hierarchy that is also their magic system. And basically, the lower you are, the more of your power you give up to those above you. And then each sort of a person, obviously it doubles almost what the ones above them have, because they say you're on the lowest level, you give to the one above you, and then the one above you gives half of yours and half of theirs to the one above them. And it's just very intense. Viz, who sort of under extreme circumstances gets sent to this military academy. However, as we go along, we sort of find out that no one really knows who Viz is, and we're kind of like, does Viz even know? And the ending is just like, explosion. I want the next book now. And finally, at number 1 is the one, the only, The Sky on Fire by Jen Lyons. Jen Lyons is perfection. She's right there. And honestly, one of my favorite authors that I have read in the last couple of years. This book is just everything that I wanted in a fantasy about dragons. And it got comped, and the whole reason, well, the reason why I wanted to read it was because it's Jen Lyons, but why I wanted to read it even more was because it's comped as sort of like a more modern takes of The Dragons of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. That book series was my childhood, and honestly, it's just, this is so good. This is sort of fantasy romp heist, and also a I wouldn't say it's a revolution, but things are happening and things are intense. And dragons in here are unlike any I've ever read. It's much less dragon and rider and much more dragon is the main, and whoever is tied to them, do they really want to be tied to them? We're not quite sure. Following Anarod, who is brought back to the top of the mountain after being chucked out of the skies many years before. And the reason why Anarod is brought back is because this group of misfits are intent on stealing from a dragon's hoard. But the reason they say that they're stealing might not actually be the reason they're stealing in the first place. But this was honestly just such good fun. There is currently no talk about a sequel, and I am desperate for... It doesn't need to be the same character, but I want it to be the same world. I need more of this in here. I just... More. And that, my friends, is my top 10 reads of 2024. I love these books. They're so good, and talking about them makes me so happy and also makes me want to reread immediately. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If I have very slowly been getting more red in the face, then that's just the way it is. And I apologize for the lighting and for that. But hopefully this means a slight return to YouTube. Maybe. Then, you know, do the regular thing. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this. Hit that subscribe button if you would like to see any more videos from me. And then I hope you know that I'm proud of you and you're doing great. And I'll see you very soon.